everybody, and welcome to a very, very special video over here on my channel. We are here for a very special 10th anniversary Funko celebration because it is quite incredible to know that these little vinyl figures that have basically taken over the toy manufacturing world have actually been in the active marketplace for a decade this year. That is absolutely amazing. So whether you love them or you hate them, if you're watching, that's great, because I think you might actually enjoy what you have to hear today just because of the fact that there are three excellent guests with me that have lots of awesome things to say about these amazing little figures. So I first want to introduce someone who is showing up on my channel for the very, very first time, and I'm so glad to have her here for the very first time. That is Jordan from The Lost Reader. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. And a person who I knew was going to come back one of these days because she was so great when she joined me for my Sunday sit-downs and when she joined me for an episode of Disney-themed Versus, Katie from the Introverted Reader. She was going to come back, and here she is. Wish granted. Katie, so great to have you back.
I'm happy to be here. I'm very happy.
And of course, the person on my channel who's living rent-free, that is Cammy from Cammy's Corner. But then again, are you not surprised that she's here to talk about Funko Pops, everyone?
Hi guys, nice to be here again. Steve, thanks for having me. You know, Funkos are near and dear to my heart.
Oh yes, in more ways than one. And you still put my whole concept of collecting to shame. You truly do. But it's a thing that I am very envious for and not terrified of. Let me just say that. So it's crazy to say that these little vinyl figures have actually been all over the place for a decade now. And I'm really curious to know if the CEO, Brian Mariotti, is actually going to get his wish. And that was that by the year 2025, there was going to be a Funko Pop in every single household. Because whether you like collecting toys or if you don't like collecting toys, there's just something about Funko that just draws you in. And the minute that Funko gives you something that is truly going to hit the nostalgia button in your mind, you are going to buy it. And let me just say that when I first discovered Funkos, and that's why I don't want anyone out there to be jealous or envious, but you will see some of my collection today. I've been collecting since 2013, so you will see some old/rare Funko Pops today. So please don't be upset that I have them and you don't. It's just because of the fact that I've been in the Funko game for very, very long. And when I first discovered these back in 2012, I thought that these were the stupidest things I ever saw in my life. I'm not going to lie. But they were just showing up everywhere. And I was just trying to get an understanding as to why these were so big. Like, they were in every collectible store. They were in the bookstore. They were in Target. They were featured all over YouTube in these subscription boxes. Does anyone even remember those? But the truth of the matter is, I was saying I am never, ever going to get on this hype train. Boy, was I wrong. Because at the end of 2013, my favorite character from my favorite movie became a Funko Pop, and it was Marty McFly from Back to the Future, and I was like, shit, here we go. and that was it. That's the history. So
That's the history.
I know that some of you have seen Cammy on my channel before, but you may not have heard her Funko story. So Cammy, we're going to start with you, and then we'll go to Katie, and then we'll go to Jordan. So Cammy, go for it.
So my thought process behind Funko and the craze was much like you. I had heard of Funko and the name in passing, but I just didn't bother to even look into the company because at that point I had been collecting all of this stuff that you see behind me. And this is just a fraction of my collection for decades. And so, you know, just like Steve said, you know, when we see some of the things in his collection, don't be envious. I tell people that all the time because consumerism and the conversation of consumerism comes up a lot in the YouTube community. But I have been collecting for, well, over 3 decades now. So my collection is huge because I keep everything. Everything has a story or a memory or something. So when Funko was brought to my attention, it was in a conversation, a lighthearted conversation in the office, and I heard 2 guys kind of going back and forth about being excited about some Funko releases. And one of the guys looked over at me and he's like, hey, do you collect Funkos? And I was like, no, I don't. And he's like, oh, is it because A, you're a girl? And I'm like, no. Or 2, do you just think all this stuff is really nerdy? And I said, if you saw my collections, you would think quite the opposite. I said, the thing with Funko is it's been out for so long now. And at that point, it had been out for a couple of years. I said, there's no way I can catch up. So flash forward to a few weeks later, it was my birthday month. And we got to talking, and he had told me that he was a closet geek collector for years. And he was embarrassed to tell people that he was collecting all of these things. And then the fact that I was, you know, expressing my collections and how long I had been a collector, he said, hey, at your lunch break, can you meet me outside? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so he goes, you know, it doesn't matter to me whether you take this anywhere or whether you do anything, just the fact that you had a conversation with me and that you made me feel comfortable about being a collector, I want to give you something. And he gave me my first Funko Pop. And that was basically the start of it. I told myself, I'm not going to do it. This is it. This is the only one I'm ever going to own. It was my favorite. He asked me who my favorite superhero was. I told him it was Batman. And he goes, even if you decide never to collect these, I just want you to have one in your collection. Well, I told you guys I learned something yesterday, and I just wanted to say, not only was this my first Funko Pop, not only did this start the craze that you see behind me, but I had no idea. I thought there was only one Batman 01. I have the very first Batman, the bobblehead. This now is the most valuable Funko Pop in my collection, and I had no idea. It brought me to tears yesterday, not because of the value. I will never sell it, but because someone cared enough as a collector, as my friend, to give me something, and full well knowing the value of this. And I will never sell this. This means more to me than the money that I could ever get out of it. So I just thought I'd share that with you guys today because I had no idea that this was the original OG Batman.
That's crazy. Congratulations to actually having that. Katie, how about you?
Well, it started by accident for me because it's really weird because as a child, I was never the type to collect action figures. I was never into that. Like my cousin, like his room was like floor to ceiling of like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars action figures. And I was a little bit envious of him because I was just like, oh, I like all this stuff too, but I'm a girl. I can't like these things. Ooh. And then as I got older, I slowly got over that. But then I didn't know what these were. I thought that they were all bobbleheads. And this might sound controversial, people. I hate bobbleheads. I just don't like them. They just freak me out. But then my sister, for my birthday one year, got me this Jon Snow. She got this for me, and you know, we were both major Game of Thrones fans, and I was just like, oh, this is really cute. Like I'm throwing him about the place, but he's really cute. And then I was just like, well, I can't just have him by himself. He needs a friend. So then I got a Daenerys. And then I got a dragon, and now 35 pops later, I feel like I need to join like a support group or something because it's just becoming a problem at this point. Like, you see all this?
You are part of the support group. We
That's
are your
very
support
true.
Group.
It's
so funny that you said that. It is so funny that you said that because that is exactly what I said when I bought my Marty. I was like, he needs a friend. So literally a week later, I went and I bought Doc Brown. Jordan.
I was kind of in the same situation as everybody else. I'm like when I walked to a Barnes and Noble or something, I was like, what the heck is that? It's like, I'm not sure what they were at first. And then I was like, those are so weird. I don't think I would ever get them until I saw my #1 favorite Disney character and Funko Pop, and that's the very first Funko Pop figure I've had. I was like, she's my favorite. I have to have her, and of course, like everybody else, they can't be alone. So 67 or 66 Funko Pops later, I got more, and I'm like, this just means the world to me because everybody knows I'm a big Disney fan, and Tinkerbell is my #1 favorite Disney character, and I'm like, this is one of my favorites, and I put her by my Peter Pan books because I have like 10 editions, and I'm pretty sure I will collect more, and I'm like, I need something to represent one of my favorite Disney movies / one of my favorite books of all time.
That's amazing. That is absolutely fantastic. And I know for a solid fact that Cammy is so happy to see that because she has a good share of Peter Pan Funko Pops. As a matter of fact, I just got a picture from her on my phone the other day. She showed me the 65th anniversary Peter Pan on the Peter Pan ride in Fantasyland.
Yes, I want that Funko Pop so bad because that's my favorite ride, and I'm like, I need to have that.
See, that ride.
Funny story about Peter Pan. I always tell people because we used to visit Disneyland frequently when I was a child because my mom never went as a kid. So we went on Peter Pan, but my sister and I forgot to pull the bar down. And if you've ever ridden the ride without the bar, it feels like you're free falling when you go down into the city and stuff like that. So to this day, when people ask me, what is this scariest ride at Disneyland, I tell them Peter Pan and they laugh, and then I tell them why. So it was such a joy to add that to my collection.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine being in your shoes on a Peter Pan ride. I'm like, I would be like, let me off if I was in that situation.
I gotta be honest with you, that ride has given me serious PTSD because I first went on that ride when I was 9 years old, but it took 2 hours to get on a tiny little ride. So me and my brother and my cousin who came with us, we were just on the line. It was hot. We were upset. We were crying. My dad was ready to punch somebody in the face. My mom was just taking pictures and laughing at us all because we were just so upset. And then when we finally got on the ride and we got off that ride, we were like, that was not worth the wait. So when I went to Disney World back in 2018 with my wife and I saw that ride, I went to my wife, take me away now, get me away from here. I can't be near this ride anymore. Too much bad memories. No. Anyway, so we basically covered the first pops that we got. That's great. So now I really want to know from some of you, besides the ones that you featured, what are your favorites? And we're going to go in reverse order. So Jordan, I want to hear about some of your absolute favorites that you have in your collection.
This is really hard to narrow down because some of my favorites are like this Olaf Funko Pop with all the kittens. I'm like, that's just so cute seeing them holding them kittens because I'm a cat person. I was like, I gotta have that one. That's one of my favorites. Mickey from when he's in Kingdom Hearts, that's one of my favorite video games, thanks to my fiance. And I also have other Funko Pops, like I have Donald, I know his legs is falling apart, from Kingdom Hearts. I have Goofy from Kingdom Hearts.
That's awesome.
And I have the main 3 characters from Kingdom Hearts just because I love that video game so much, thanks to him. And I just can't get over this Stitch Funko Pop because he's so cute and he actually acts like a dog and not like a crazy alien that he is before he met
he's so cute.
I also like this Mickey Funko Pop because that's my favorite Mickey short of all time just because of the irony behind it. And I'm just like, I gotta have him. And of course, some of my other favorites, Belle and the Beast, the original. And also, one of my other ones is the live action Beast. I'm just like, I can't get over it. He's just so cute, even though he's supposed to be so fierce. So.
You know, you're mentioning 2 specific things that I absolutely have to share. The fact that you featured one single Beast from a specific thing and not any others. My wife has a few of her own, but not as big of a collection as mine. And one of the Funko Pops that she has is the Beast with when he's feeding the birds. So he's got little birds on his head. And she never wanted to get the Belle. She just likes the Beast because he's just so cute. And I love that you featured that Stitch That is what my wife calls sitting sad stitch, but we
Aw.
actually managed to get our hands on the Hot Topic Flocked exclusive. That one and her original Sorcerer Mickey from Fantasia. We have the original
Yes!
Sorcerer Mickey.
I
so
still want that Funko Pop. I'm like, I gotta have it because I love Fantasia so much. Plus,
I
I
do
met
too.
Mickey in his sorcerer outfit. That's why I want that Funko Pop so much.
Katie, how about you? Let's see some of your favorites.
Right. Well, first and foremost, I want to show off this right here, Levi
Oh, Attack
from
on Titan.
Attack on Titan. It took me so long to find him. I was looking around everywhere for him, and then I find him on Amazon, and they were just like, only 4 left, and I was like, not anymore. So I got him. He has not left his box since I got him, and he will forever stay in this box because he's my boy, and I love him. And this was the brand new one that I got.
Zuko!
Zuko from Avatar. So I've
Nice.
been looking for Zuko like from the latter seasons, where he looks like this.
Right.
And he's bending lightning. I don't know if you can see, but he's
Yeah, I
bending
can tell
lightning.
that.
I can
it's
see on the
bending
box.
This
lightning.
is the other Zuko that I have.
From the
where
first
he's bending
season.
fire from the first. And let me see. I have Keith from Voltron. I
Oh,
recently
wow.
watched
You
Voltron,
see-
and I'm obsessed with him.
You
My
see,
dark
I-
angry son, I love him.
I did watch the 1984 original. Cammy, I wouldn't be surprised if you watched Voltron when you were growing up too. If you didn't, I'd be surprised because you basically watched everything.
The very last one, Dapper Jack.
Oh, that's a
Like
great,
in
and
his
it's the
coat.
Diamond Edition.
Yeah, he's diamond, he's sparkly, and I have a lot of Jack Skellingtons actually. I've got like 3 or 4 of him.
But you're
Lord
a fan
knows
of
I'll
Nightmare
get-
Before Christmas.
That's true. Like
That's why.
there he is there he is
And there's
there.
Sally.
And with Sally, because I had to get Sally.
Of course.
I had
Can't
to.
have Jack without Sally.
There you go.
Jack without Sally. It's like Lilo without Stitch.
Yes.
Exactly.
Like, no. So yeah, those are some of mine.
Those
They're
are great.
They're my favorites.
Cammy, enlighten. I know you will.
Well, I definitely wanted to adhere to the time that we have. So when you have a collection as large as mine, I could pick out favorites all day. I do realize that this display behind me is some of my absolute favorite. This is most of the Disney pops, and these are a lot of pops that I choose to keep out of box, and some of my favorites exist within all the little cubbies. Also, this display right here, this is actually a display that I picked up from a Hallmark store that was closing, and I made it a Funko Pop display so it actually spins. And
That's
that
cool.
possesses pretty much a good majority of the Funkos that I love so much, to include the ones that are facing us, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle line, the Haunted Mansion line. I also have the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and then the Big Bang Theory, where they're all in their costumes, the DC costumes.
Yes.
But
Love
the
that.
ones that I chose to pull out because a lot of people wish
I'm
they
excited.
had them in their collection
I'm gonna scooch
are
closer.
the
I'm
Universal
excited.
Monsters line.
Oh, yes. The
These
Universal
are
Movie Monsters.
my
That is
absolute
amazing.
Love that.
Did I not help you get the Invisible Man from Walgreens?
You did, yeah.
I
He's
thought-
actually over there. I have Frankenstein and the Invisible Man from Walgreens, but these are the original ones, the original 8, and I love them. I know that they also come in metallic, and there was a black and white series of the original 4 and stuff. Those are a lot harder to get, harder to find, very expensive, but to have these in my collection is both a fan of horror, a fan of cinema, and of course a Funko collector means so much to me. So I wanted to definitely pull those out to share with you guys.
Right. Some of my personal favorites, there's actually somewhat of an ongoing theme, and that is when some of my fandoms like truly blend together, and I just like see them as more than just a Funko Pop, but more so like a piece of true nostalgia overall that I absolutely love. Like also things that are very meaningful to me, like something that reminds me of a very good time, like one of my favorites, and again, I bought this when it first was retired, so the fact that I managed to get it for a good price was absolutely a shock, but I cannot get over how much this thing is worth. This is the original Steamboat Willie I bought this back in early 2014 for only $12, and this
Wow.
thing is worth so much right now. One of the saddest moments of my life was when Toys R Us officially went out of business in the United States. So this was the luckiest of lucky finds for me, but all of a sudden I see a link on my Twitter feed saying, "Flocked Jeffrey the Giraffe, Toys R Us exclusive, is on the Funko shop." I got it. Couldn't believe that I got it. So this is just like everything that I used to love as a kid. It's got the Toys R Us sticker on there too. I also will not lie about the fact that I'm somewhat of a sticker collector. I know that I'm never going to get all the stickers. Like I want to have like one Funko Pop with every sticker on it, but I have a feeling that it's never going to be. Also have to get some of my all-time favorite characters. Like I couldn't have a Disney collection with out these two guys, Chip and Dale, my
Yes.
absolute favorites. I adore Chip and Dale.
Adorable.
I will get Rescue Rangers if they do make them. That's a definite.
I mean, they should.
It should. It should.
Yeah. Also, along with Back to the Future, one of my other favorite movies of all time is Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, yes, that's one of my dad's favorites.
I got him, and I also have Jessica too. I didn't get the whole set, but I got them when they first hit stores. These things are so rare now. It is scary to know that I actually got in early and got them when I did. But also there's a lot of other fandoms that I have that, again, they come to me in Funko form, and it's just like an extension. Like, I also do like sports. So I got the original Mr. Mets mascot from the New York Mets. That's my baseball team. This is the original one. This thing is worth almost $100 right now because it came out like in May of 2014, and then it was gone like 3 months later, along with the other 7 of them, I think. And the fact that I have it is kind of crazy. One of the things that my wife and I love to do together every single night when we come home from work and eat dinner is watch Jeopardy. So, of course, now it's even more meaningful for us. We have Alex Trebek.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, especially
That's
when you
so
pass away.
sweet.
Of course, you gotta have it.
have to.
And one of them that I actually did not think would be one of my personal favorites, but it actually turns out the more that I think about it, the more that it is. And Cammy knows this a lot more than you guys right now, but she also knows that I'm a huge comic book fan and a huge superhero fan. And one of the Funko Pops that I bought just on a whim, and it was a specialty series pop, which means it's only sold at comic book stores and hobby shops. I got the 80th anniversary Superman pop.
Wow.
Ooh.
And the reason why this one turns out to be one of my ultimate favorites is because when I look at this pop, I see every Superman that I've ever seen in my life. I see the comic book Superman. I see the Hanna-Barbera Super Friends Superman, Superman the Animated Series, the Christopher Reeve, Richard Donner film from 1978, the 1950 George Reeves Superman show, though I would love to get a George Reeves Superman on his own just because it would go great with my Adam West Batman collection. But it's just everything that Superman is and represents, and as a comic book fan, this turns out to be one of my absolute favorite pops. So I'm just glad to know that these are just some of the few that I actually have in my collection because there's just so much meaning to them. And like Cammy, like I will never sell these because to get rid of them, it's like, why did I buy them in the first place if the job was to just go out and sell them? You know what I mean? Like, what's the point? But the next question that I want to ask to all of you is, this doesn't necessarily have to be from a money perspective. It could be from a personal perspective, but what is one of your most valuable? I guess I'll start, if that's okay. This specific Funko Pop has a lot of meaning to me. This is James Bond in his Aston Martin from the James Bond films.
That's cool.
Now,
Love that.
why is this so important to me? I have not seen a single James Bond movie in theaters since GoldenEye came out in 1995. I've only seen James Bond movies with my dad. So that's like one of the greatest things that I do. Whenever a new James Bond movie comes out, I only reach out to my father. I don't see it with my wife. I don't see it with my brother-in-law or any of my friends. It's my dad and my dad only because he introduced me to James Bond. It's special to me. And I'm just like, whenever I see this, I'm just going to remember all of those great times that I've had with my dad. Cammy, how about you?
For me, a lot of my collection, you know, I could look at it in different ways because as a collector of so many fandoms, there's so many pops that fit in different categories. Like my Hocus Pocus pops, I can look at them as kind of light horror pops or Disney. But of course, my out-of-box pops that I have behind me, these are some of my, you know, most prized, the ones I'm proudest to show off. You know, I've already talked about that display over there holds, you know, some of my favorites. But I think when I look back on being a collector 20 years from now and why I started this adventure in the first place, my most valuable pop and my favorite pop is going to be my first one. And that's because of the story that I can tell with it. The fact that someone who hardly knew me, who ended up becoming one of my best friends, not only shared with me his collecting and why he's a collector, but appreciated the fact that I'm a collector and what my story holds and, you know, the legacy of what I've been able to build. It's just being a collector and finding other collectors. There's just something so special about that. You know, when you're able to have a conversation and you're able to share stories and swap memories and things like that, it just makes being a collector so much more magical. And so for me, I will always hold that one near and dear because that's how this whole craze began.
Katie, what about you?
I mean, I love all my pops equally. I have to say that because they're listening. But like, I think probably Levi might be kind of like low-key my favorite. Mostly just because it took so long to find him, and it had been so long since I'd watched an anime that like I was really like addicted to. Like I have Inuyasha up there on the shelf.
Oh yes. I love Inuyasha
and Shishomaru up there. They're hanging about on the shelf up there. I'm too lazy to get up. But watching that and then watching Attack on Titan and just like seeing this character and just like I adore him so much. His whole character arc and just like, and as well my sister getting me Jon Snow and just being reminded of all those times we would sit and watch Game of Thrones together and make up theories that never came to fruition because we're stupid. But you know, just like them all. But I guess Levi and I guess maybe Jon Snow. Just, you know, Game of Thrones watch party memories when we were allowed to interact with other people.
Yeah, we will soon. Don't worry about that. I think I agree with you and Cammy. I mean, I'm not going to deny that Marty Mcfly, my original, is actually one of my personal favorites as well. As a matter of fact, I completely forgot. Cammy, there's a very interesting fun fact about this specific pop as well. As you guys all know, whether you're in-box collectors or out-box collectors, there are numbers on all the boxes.
Oh, yeah.
So the number on this Marty Mcfly is number 61. They changed that about a year later because the Pulp Fiction line came out, and two of the characters had 61 and 62, just like Marty and Doc Brown. So when that actually happened, they realized, uh-oh, they made a boo-boo. So now Marty and Doc in the movie collection are numbers 49 and 50. So this is worth a little something extra because this is the original Marty. Wow. So I thought that was pretty cool to share. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, this is I have numbers 61 and 62. So these are a little bit older. Jordan, what about you?
I think for me, other than this Funko Pop, I do have Katniss Everdeen in her original outfit from the first movie. I have it over there, but I'm too lazy to grab it. But it was like $50, and my mom said, like, I'm gonna give it to you for your birthday, and she did, just because she knows that I was in college at the time. So I'm like, nope, I have to save my own school stuff. So she got it for me for my birthday. So that's kind of means a lot to me because I'm a big Hunger Games fan, and I just love how the books impact on everybody. Like there was I feel like when I've read it, like the lesson behind it is like just never give up hope, and that kind of reminds me of that from like just in general, because there's a lot of times I think that there's no hope, but every time I look at that Funko Pop, it just gives me a symbol of hope. That's why I also have other versions of Katniss Everdeen Funko Pops because she's my favorite character, but that Funko Pop just means a lot to me just because my mom got it for me for my
That's great.
birthday.
And I also saw Katie give the salute. I thought that was really cool. I actually just rewatched
You caught that.
because I rewatched the whole series just the other week. I over the last month I actually rewatched my copies of all 4 Hunger Games films. So yeah, I definitely think at some point in time I have to reread the books. So
I need to as well.
I'm just nervous to read the prequel just because it's not the prequel story that I wanted.
No, you're absolutely right. My wife says the exact same thing. It's not the story I wanted. She's like, I want the first Hunger Games. I want the creation of Panem. That's what I want.
I want Haymitch's backstory. That's the prequel story that I want.
Yeah, I don't want President Snow in the Hunger Games. Nobody wants that.
No.
But anyway,
not the village in origin story we wanted.
Right. So I guess this is just something that if you want to jump in, you're welcome to do so. But I know that Cammy will because she does. Do any of you outside of the Pops themselves collect any other Funko products?
Just the Funko Pops for me, to be honest.
Yeah, same, just the Pops.
Well, clearly Cammy and I are in a realm all of ourselves because we both are wearing Funko t-shirts. That's number one. But she and I have a Dorbz or two. I have a rock candy as well. I have a couple of pocket pops as well. But I know for a solid fact that while we're not as heavy into collecting this specific product from Funko as the Pops, Cammy and I did fall into the soda can trap to a degree.
Well, I knew that this was something that we were going to be talking about. So I actually have an example of everything. And I believe, with the exception of the wacky wobbler, I have something in every Funko line. So I actually have a blocks, of course, the new soda cans. I'm only doing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles though. That I told myself that's all I'm getting in this line.
So I'm trying to.
But I only did a few of these. I did the Buffy line, obviously, for my Buffy collection, and then I have another one of just Alice in Wonderland. Also popped in with a Dorbz too, and this was the first Dorbz that I got. And I needed it because I absolutely adored how cute Abu and Aladdin looked on this magic carpet. And who doesn't want a magic carpet in there?
Oh,
of course,
yeah.
I didn't know that they were eventually going to make that pop over there with Aladdin and Jasmine. But this was my first Dorbz. So yeah, I actually have something. Oh, I also have minis and I have keychains as well. I didn't grab any examples of those.
Yeah.
But that literally means I have something in every line that Funko has produced.
Well, you don't have any Nodniks, or do you?
No, I don't even know about those. What are those?
But they were in the documentary. They literally were the next stage of bobbleheads after the Wacky Wobblers.
Oh, okay, then that's why. Yeah, there was that gray area between 98 and 2005 that they got experimental, and that was before I started being a Funko fanatic. So, don't have those either.
I have a rock candy that I got in a Target DC Bombshells box. I love the take on DC characters in 1950s looks and whatnot, and the box came with. Ironically, I didn't care much for the pop because it was actually supposed to be Batman in that look, but I more so wanted to get that box because it came with a Black Canary rock candy, and she looks like a 1940s siren singer, which is one of the coolest things that I ever saw, so I had to get that for myself. The Dorbz that I have are one that came with a Batman the Animated Series collector box, so it was Batman in the animated series Batmobile, which is awesome. It's literally right over there where I'm pointing. Yep, right over there. And on the other side, all the way on the far end of that shelf, is my George Jetson in his car, because I am a huge Jetsons fan. The Funko Pop line of the Jetsons had not come out yet. I wasn't sure if they ever will come out. Clearly, I was wrong, and they did, and I bought them all because I love that show so dearly. But I just said if I was never going to get anything from Funko that was Jetsons related, that was what I had to get, and I'm really happy that I have it because it was limited to 5,000 pieces and it was still on the market for a good price. It was only $20, so I had to get my hands on that one. And I only have one soda can figure right now, which is Bob Ross. Had to get Bob Ross. But I am still waiting to get my Roger Rabbit, and Cammy also knows that I just pre-ordered The Tick because I love that cartoon. That is fantastic. And the last question of this first group of things that we were going to discuss about just Funko Pops in general is, what are you still waiting for Funko to make in regards to Pops? Like, what line do you still want?
That's a really tricky question because I'm into board games like my fiance because he teaches board games on his channel. I would love to see Funko Pop figures of the people on the cover of Ticket to Ride, just because that's such a fun game. And plus, I always see like the Monopoly Man. I'm like, really? and I'm just like, you need more Funko Pops other than the Monopoly guy. So
Well,
I'm like, I would love to see other Funko Pops that has like board game characters on the.
well, they're literally expanding on that right now as we speak. I mean, they're making Clue Pops and they're making Candyland Pops now.
Oh gosh, I remember Candyland.
Yeah, and I will say, I'm not going to buy them myself, but those are some of the most beautifully detailed Pops I've seen. Not only do they have the characters that you see on the game board, but they even made a game piece. And it's scary how accurate it looks. It really is.
We've got these Funko Pop games for Christmas. So
Oh,
I got
wow.
the Batman one and the other one. So, and my fiance is not into Pops like I am, but we got them for Christmas and he was like, I'm willing to try out these games. So yeah, so it's like kind of an expansion to Funko Pops.
To know how that goes, because a lot of people do like the board game. So I'd really like to know how it is.
Oh yeah.
Katie, what are you waiting for? Anything specific?
Well, I guess like more book characters I would love to see made into Pops. Like I have a lot of favorite books here behind me, and I would love to see some of my favorite book characters be made into Pops. And I know that BTS got their Funko Pop moment, but I would love to see some more K-pop groups get Funko Pops. Like SHINee are my favorite K-pop group of all time, and literally if Funko came out with a SHINee line, I would literally buy every single one and not apologize because I'm
just letting you know, brace yourself because they're making another wave of BTS.
I'll have to get them for my sister.
I mean, I still remember when I saw the original line, you could go to Barnes & Noble here in the United States and get all 7 of them in one box.
Wow.
I actually saw it up close. I was like, holy cow, that's pretty amazing. I mean, I will never buy the Pops, but I got to admit what I love so much about the BTS line is they got so much color. The colors are bright and
very
vibrant.
colorful.
It's just cool to look at.
They're very colorful.
Cammy?
Oh, I went back and I looked at the time that we did our 10 for 12, and you had asked us what Funko Pops we had wanted to make. So you can see I collab with Steve quite a bit when it comes to collaborations and anything Funko. So I went through that list and I was actually surprised that there was quite a few Funkos I had mentioned that had already become into fruition.
Yes.
However, you're going to probably think I'm a little greedy here with all of the Alice Pops that just came out, but I'm a little upset with all of the Alice creations. They still haven't made Dinah.
Make a new Alice with Dinah in her lap or something.
That would be cute.
Exactly, yes. If they made like Alice sitting under the tree, maybe asleep with the book and then Dinah to the side or something like that, that would be awesome. I would also, for the horror lover in me, also still love to get a Wes Craven Pop and a Vincent Price Pop.
Technically, you kind of already do have Vincent Price. It's Radigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's back there.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. But I would just love his face because he does have that very iconic face, you know. And there are a few other miscellaneous things that I would want, but for now, those are my big ones.
Well, for all the Disney fans in this room, which are pretty much all of us, there is a new line that was leaked that will be coming out towards the end of the year, and it is The Sword and the Stone.
Oh, yes.
So
I cannot wait.
I will just say that there is no doubt in my mind that Merlin and Archimedes will be joining my collection because I adore Archimedes to death. He's, you know what? As an adult, I haven't really been a big fan of the movie itself, But I love Archimedes and Merlin together. They are
I
fantastic.
know.
Yeah, Merlin's
Can I
like my
just say
favorite
no?
wizard, other than like other books that I've read in movies, obviously. And I'm just like, every time I think of the wizard, other than Gandalf or other wizards that I forgot on top of my head, I always think of Merlin, just because I've always adored the King Arthur stories, but I haven't read the books yet. But I've seen different adaptations, and I'm like, Merlin is such an awesome wizard. I gotta have him in my collection.
Yeah.
One of the beautiful things about Merlin too, though, is he even appears in Harry Potter books. So Merlin is timeless. I mean, it doesn't matter what fandom you're a part of. Merlin is an ancient wizard who's respected by all wizards, which is super cool. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah,
a must
definitely.
Funko Pop when he is created.
Can I just say as well, did anybody ever watch the BBC adaptation of Merlin that came out in like 2000? It was like 2004 to like, I think it was like 2011 or something. Cammy's nodding, Cammy's with me. Like if they made Funkos of like that version of Merlin, like the Merlin with his little neck scarf, or like Arthur with like his armor or whatever, like, or like a Funko of Gaius, of like Richard Wilson as Gaius, that would be iconic. I would love that.
Well, as someone who's been
That's all I wanted
collecting
to say.
Funko Pops, no, that's okay. As someone who's been collecting Funko Pops for so many years, and Cammy knows this as well, there are a lot of Funko Pops that I wanted to see actually come out that actually did, in fact, come out. It took a little while for a great deal of them, but it was worth the wait. Like I mentioned Radigan earlier, I wanted a Great Mouse Detective line to come out for years, and it did. Some of the other ones that came out over the last couple of years, like Garfield showed up, the Jetsons came out, Waldo from the Where's Waldo books showed up finally, so I was so excited about that. But one specific Funko Pop, which was actually a pop ride, that I said Funko cannot conclude making Funko Pops and not make a pop ride of Speed Racer in the Mach 5. So when this came out, I hope nobody gets offended by this, but I needed a change of pants because I got so excited. But I pre-ordered it the minute it went to pre-order. I was so excited to get this pop in my collection. It is one of my personal favorites. I love, and I don't even watch the anime show from the 1960s as much as I adore the Wachowski brothers film. Well, not the Wachowskis film. I forgot about that. My apologies. But the Wachowskis film, I have a soft spot for, so I'm so happy about that. But there were rumors that it was finally coming out this year, and I thought that it might actually be dropped during the Funko Fair, but it wasn't. And that was, I'm still waiting for my Seinfeld line. It's not here yet. I have been dying for my Seinfeld characters to become Funko Pops because I know that there are so many Seinfeld fans that would totally buy these Funko Pops, but there were rumors last fall that they were going to be making Funko Pops and accessories and keychains and mystery minis. So I'm like, where are they? Why are they not here yet? May I have them, please? So I'm hoping that I don't have to wait another year, and this will be the year that I actually finally get my Seinfeld Pop. So I'm hoping on bated breath here. So now let's get into another topic. By the way, there was a great deal that we discussed, and this has been so much fun just talking about our love of these little figures. But the next question that I really want to ask everybody is just about collecting in general. What does being a collector mean to you, and what drives you to collect what you do?
I'll
Cammy, do
start
you
on
want to
this
take the
one
floor?
because I've been collecting the longest because I'm the oldest duck in the room. For me, collecting used to mean something different. When I was younger, it was a completist collection. I was more interested in finding things, completing a collection, and kind of checking the boxes and saying, okay, I have that, on to the next. As I get older and as time is more precious and I see that the world around me is changing, I'm aging, for me, it's a preservation thing. I always attest my collection and what it means to be a collector to that moment in the Labyrinth. And forgive me if I'm dating myself here and you haven't seen Labyrinth, but Labyrinth for me, when it gets to that moment where Sarah is going through the labyrinth and she's in pretty much in the middle, she's about 12 hours in, she's exhausted, and she comes across the trash lady, and the trash lady has recreated her childhood bedroom, and she's trying to, of course, distract her and keep her in that moment. In a way, I am trying to encapsulate the room that I grew up in. My childhood was magical. It was happy. It was carefree. It was the only time in my life that I will ever have all of those things. So to not only keep that, but to encapsulate pop culture and nostalgia and things that eventually won't be here anymore. You won't be able to find on an open market. To have a piece of that in my possession means so much to me, because it's a way for me to kind of pass it on to the next generation. Now, I don't have biological children, I have stepchildren, but I do have a nephew who is a carbon copy of me, and he gets so excited, and he has his first Funko Pop, and he tells me about it every single time I call. Aunt Cammy, did you know about my Funko Pop? Even though we've talked about it a million times. And it's going to bring me such joy at some point in my elderly years to pass on all of this to him, because I know he will preserve it and love it just as much as I have. And that's been my only concern. You know, being a collector, you're like, who is going to love this stuff just as much as I do? Who is going to appreciate this and what it means? And so to be able to find someone like that in your life and know when I'm gone, a piece of me will still remain, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's, and I'm glad that you said that specifically, because that's exactly, at least to a degree, what collecting means to me. I mean, when I was growing up, I would definitely say that even though my parents will never say it, I truly was the black sheep of me and my siblings. I was very different from my brother and sister, and I was the oldest of the three, by the way. The thing was, I was the one that actually spent my money on all of these collecting things and these hobbies and stuff like that. And my parents and my siblings just never understood. It's like, why is he spending this money on all of these things that so many people would find meaningless? And I never stopped. And I just said one day, I remembered I was still in my 20s, and I was still living with my parents, and my dad once asked me, I still don't understand why you buy all these movies, or why you buy all these CDs, or why you collect all these things. And I just said to him, Dad, it just makes me happy. It just makes me happy that I have all these things. And I remember when I watched the little docuseries on Netflix called The Toys That Made Us, and I watched the first episode, and they had a psychiatrist on that episode, and he actually explained why people collect, and that was where it finally hit me. And it was basically, when a person collects, what you are doing is not a bad thing. You are actually reaching out to the rest of the world. Your collecting is an extension of you. What you love, what you like to share, it's all there in what you collect. And when you bring someone new into your life and you bring them into that spot that you just find as your special place where all your collections are, and you just keep that person there for hours and say, I want to share this with you. What you're really doing is not showing someone that you are a loser and you have no life. What you are showing people is, this is me. And if you don't like me, then leave. That's what being a collector is. And that's why I don't stop. And I definitely will say that I am someone who is very much against this whole new Marie Kondo minimalist mentality, because the fact that there are people now that are saying you don't need all this stuff. Well, okay, maybe to a certain degree you don't need so many clothes, or you don't need, I mean, look, I'm not going to lie about the fact that I had a whole bunch of collections that I threw out just because they just had no meaning to me anymore. But when you officially eliminate this part of you, you're getting rid of a little bit of yourself, and you're basically turning yourself into a mindless drone. And the purpose of living in this world is to be yourself, embrace the individuality that you are. And that's what it is. That's really what I love about collecting. And again, I'm definitely never going to classify myself as a hoarder, because I know for a solid fact that if I throw something out, I will throw it out. I have thrown it out. I threw out all of my old toys because they were all battered and broken because I played with them. But that's what I love about Funko, because we will go into the last part of this, which is the Funko documentary, which I'm sure we're all excited to talk about and share. But what I love so much is about the guy who runs the comic book hobby shop store Toy Tokyo in New York City. I've never been there, but I know where it is. I love that one of the few things that he said, when people grow up and they have access to money, they want to buy what their parents threw out. They want to buy what reminds them of their childhood. And that's what I love so much about Funko Pops, because my life is represented in these little boxes. These are movies that I love. These are books that I read. These are television shows that I watch with family and friends. These are music that I've listened to, comic books that I've read. It's my life. And that's what I love so much about it, and it makes me happy.
That's exactly the conversation that my mom and I have had multiple times, is that she said, you know, I'm happy that you have all of these things that make you happy, but that's why I got rid of some of your toys over the years, because I didn't want to do to you what you're doing to yourself now, weighing you down through life with all of these material possessions that you're going to have to, you know, protect and move with you wherever you go. And I said, but that's the beauty of it. And I said, you know, looking back, there are some things that I wish I would have had, because even if I replace it today, it's not mine. It's not what I had when I grew up. It's not what I fell asleep holding or what I played with for relentless hours in my room, you know? So can I replace it? Yes, but it doesn't have the same feeling. And that's why after I had watched the documentary that you had mentioned, The Toys That Made Us, it made me happy, and it brought up all those old endorphins of the things that I used to have. But it also did kind of bring to light that I have reached a, I guess, kind of a impasse or a fork in the road when it comes to my collecting. I no longer have the desire to get everything that I once had, because of the fact that it's just too much. And that's the beauty of these Funkos, is that in some way you're kind of recreating your childhood, like the retro toy line that just came out. You know, I'm grabbing a few of those because did I have the original toy? Yes. Do I need to go find that for, you know, hundreds of dollars? No, I can encapsulate my childhood in a $12 Funko Pop and be just as happy because I already had it, but now I have it in a different way. And that's a really cool way to also encapsulate that nostalgia.
No, I just wanted to bounce off what you were saying. Like this isn't just a little sparkly figurine to me. Like I look at Jack and I see a character that I remember watching in that old, well, it's old now, it wasn't old when I watched it, that old Tim Burton movie about this character that was tired of the norm, tired of the constant just like, oh, this every single year, I need something different. And him wanting to branch out and do different things. And even though he failed, he still did it, you know? And like, I always say this to people, I only ever get Funkos of characters that I truly love and adore and that I hold close to my heart. Like Jack Skellington, Zuko, Merida, she's right here, my twin sister. I like this character meant something to me. And like, same with Zuko, same with Jack Skellington, same with even Jon Snow, like all these characters going through all these things that were sort of considered like outside, like Zuko's father not paying any attention to him, I can relate. Jon Snow being like the black sheep, I can relate. You know, Merida being told she needs to be a certain way in order to function in society, you know, like I love being able to look at that and be all like, you know, if she can do it, so can I. So that's why I keep them around.
Rock on.
Well, for me, like my sister and I have been collecting Disney pins for years, and we still collect them to this day. My parents did not think collecting was a bad thing. They always think it's a good thing, just because we have something that'll keep memories alive. Like the very first Disney pin I ever had was a Tinkerbell pin, because she's my favorite.
Yep.
And it's just some of our family members think it's weird how we collect stuff, but my parents knew, like, it's just make us happy. It's like a piece of us, like we're presenting ourselves, being ourselves and all that. And I know, like, some of my relatives were still are like, why you have this junk or something like that. But it's just for me, it's just something that makes me happy. And plus, my sister collects elephants. Anything that has elephants, she will grab them just because it's her favorite animal. And I know that it makes her happy. And her whole bedroom is full of elephants, including Dumbo, because that's her favorite. So I just know that my parents understand that we need something to make us happy, and not think that this is all junk. So that's kind of collecting is just happiness, like everybody said, and it's something that I just want something to remember by. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping that I will be able to fall into Cammy's camp, and hopefully, God willing, I will have either a child of my own or a young niece or nephew that just loves all this stuff as much as I do. So at least I know that there will be someone that I can pass all of this stuff down to. But if not, I will definitely tell my wife, just sell whatever you want and keep whatever you want. That's just going to be the way it goes. But, it's so great how these things and other things, because that'll lead into the next topic of this grouping of questions and discussion topics, is when you take a look at your collections, especially when you're just like coming home from a long day and you just are surrounded by all of these things, how just like time stops. And you just get put at peace. Like, one of the things that I'm so glad that I did back in 2019 was I started collecting comic books again. Just because of the fact that I always enjoyed it. And not only did it give me the opportunity to read so many amazing stories that I have been wanting to read for a long time, but it has strengthened some bonds with even some old friends of mine, because apparently I found out that they collect comics right now too. And some of these people are still just newlywed, or they're parents of children, and they still manage to find it, and they're even passing it on to their kids. But there are some nights where I just have a really, really long night. I've had dinner with my wife, and then she goes upstairs to take care of a couple of things for her next day when she goes back to teaching her students. And I will just go downstairs where I am right now. I have a large walk-in closet where actually a lot of my pops are, along with some other things in storage, but my comic books are there too. And I could just lift up a lid off one of the comic boxes, pull out a whole bunch of them, and just go through them to make sure that everything is still in decent condition. Like, check the staples, check the corners, check the sides. And it's like the greatest thing I can ever do with my life. Like, I just feel like I'm at peace, and I feel like I'm just a child again. Like, minutes feel like hours feel like days. It's like I will look at the clock after going through a stack of comics. I'm like, oh my God, it's time for bed already. I can't believe it. But I'm just so glad that I did that as well, because if I didn't have these comic books, I think that 2020 would have broke me severely. Like, I think I would have gone to a real serious depression, and I really have no idea what I would have been able to do. But my wife knows for a solid fact, like, there were days that I would just bring a stack of comic books up to our office where we have our desks and just put them on my desk, and for about 3 or 4 hours just read and read and read and just be at peace. And that will lead into a question that I really want to get some interesting answers from all three of you. Besides Funko, what are some collections that you have that you're most proud of?
Well, like I mentioned, Disney pins, because every time I go to Disney, I'm like, I gotta get a pin, and same as my sister. And the funny thing is, during our last trip in 2017, my mom started collecting pins just because of me and my sister. So she was like, oh, I gotta get this, and my dad was like, really? So we've been collecting them since since our mine and my sister's second trip to Disney, and we've been still collecting to this day. And I'm pretty sure we have like over 100 or 200 by now. So,
wow.
And of course, we always get different pins of our favorite characters, or the ones that you don't see all the time. We always grab those, and of course, one of the pins that they have like for each different year for each trip, just so we can remember the trip. So.
That's great. There's definitely a lot of good memories there, I'm sure. Katie, how about yourself?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of books, as everybody knows. There's a small portion of my book collection behind me, but I mean, I have a few here, if you don't mind.
Oh,
I mean, not a
please.
whole lot, but I have this edition of Strange the Dreamer by Lani Taylor, and it's one of my favorite books ever, and I'm so happy that I have it because before this came out, she had like a pre-order sort of like campaign sort of thing, and it was just like you get the book and the edges are sprayed, which if you're a book lover, you understand why this
Yes.
is why I'm so happy. And also she like doodled inside of it
Oh, that's
and
great.
signed it, and like this particular edition is hard to find. Like you can still get it, I mean obviously not with the sprayed edges, but like this edition, this cover is going for like hundreds and hundreds on like eBay and like everywhere else. And every time I see, like, I'm happy whenever people get it, but at the same time I look at mine and I'm just like, I'm so happy I have this.
That's
Like
great.
I'm just I feel quite blessed to have this in my possession along with a
Wonderful.
few others. Yeah, but like I don't really like collect books. Like if I see a nice edition of a certain book, then I'll get it, but like I'm not really the type that has loads and loads of editions of the same one, but I have a few that are like little gems, including that one.
I sort of collect books, but sort of don't collect books. Like my book collection is not really vast, but there are certain things that if they really, really grab me, I definitely want to pick them up. One of the few books that I actually am hoping to get soon, it will most likely be next month or maybe the month after. I was going to my local comic shop for free comic book summer, and one of the free comic books that they gave us was a snippet from the biography of famous comic book writer and artist Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby is responsible for some of the most well-known comic book characters of all time: Captain America, the Avengers, Fantastic Four, some of the most well-known fourth world DC characters like Darkseid and Calabac and Desaad, Granny Goodness. And what I love so much about this biography is it's written like a comic book.
Oh yes, I found that in my library and I actually grabbed it. I was like, that looks interesting. And I grabbed it not only for me, but also for my fiance who read more comic books than me. And I just thought it's just a unique way to tell someone else's story, especially when they're the artists of Marvel Comics. So.
And yeah, Marvel, DC Comics, he was a legend. And the other reason why I actually decided that I want to get the book is because Jack Kirby and I share a birthday.
Wow, that's interesting.
So I just thought that that would be such a cool thing to have. And just like, I want to read the rest of it because I love the little free comic book that I got. And I was like, I really want to read the rest of this story. And it's just going to be so interesting to read the story of this amazing, legendary man who built these amazing comic book worlds. So before I get into some of my other collections, I really want Cammy to go first.
A better question would be, what don't I collect?
That is true. I should have asked that. I am so sorry.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I have been referred to as a hoarder, but as I kindly fight back or bite back and say, it's not hoarding if it's collecting. If it's something that you love, if it's something that you take care of and that you're gonna display or you're gonna share with someone, then that's different. I don't have like old newspapers or something. I kind of consider that hoarding, but I know that's a collection kind of thing too. But my collecting started probably around the age of 12. And it actually was prompted from the frequent visits that we would have to the Disney theme park, Disneyland. And my mom said, you guys should just grab some random things to put in your room, like find something that you would want to collect. And so at first I didn't really know. And so I just started randomly collecting like Mickey stuff, nothing in particular. And that led me into really thinking about what I wanted. And so that's what started Alice in Wonderland. And now Alice has just completely blown up for me. That is my biggest and most vast collection. And I have everything under the sun. I mean, China and snow globes and pins and Barbie dolls and video games, Funko Pops, you name it, I have it in Alice. I also have a small Star Wars collection, which includes, again, an array and an assortment of things. I do have a very vast book collection. and a lot of tangible media, you know, like when it comes to, like you were talking about, you know, videos and CDs and stuff like that. I have them and I keep them. So, and I do have some pins too, but I'm old, so I actually started collecting pins back in 1999. So I have some pretty vintage Disney pins. And from what I hear, they're worth a pretty penny, but will I sell them? Doubtful. You know,
Too many memories.
It's, yeah, to me, it's just, you know, like, as a matter of fact, that was the first venture that I went on when it came to pins. Disney had released a line of 100 years of Disney. So they released 101 pins. I have the entire collection.
Damn. That's
if
awesome.
I was to sell that today, it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
But again, I have no desire to sell it because I like the collection. I love the pins. They're beautiful.
I want to elaborate on what you said earlier about the difference from a collector and a hoarder. If your collection is organized, you are not a hoarder.
Oh, I am meticulously organized.
No.
Let me tell you a story of when I was a teenager. I was probably about 15 at the time. And much what you see here, I mean, not to this magnitude, but my room was very much like this. My sister, who's 8 years younger than me, walked into my bedroom and borrowed a CD. My CDs were kept in alphabetical order, chronologically by year. She borrowed a CD and she put it back crooked. And so when I walked into my room, I stopped in my doorway and I was like, why did you go in my room today? And my sister said, how would you even know I went into your room? And I said, because you borrowed that CD and you didn't put it back properly.
Oh,
She's
snap.
like, what is wrong with you? You are sick. And then she ran into the living room and told my mom that there was something wrong with me, like I was dropped at birth or something.
Holy cow.
Meticulously organized for decades.
That's a story. Wow. That's crazy. Wow. No, it's just
I have
like
a problem.
Oh, yeah, I was trying to figure out what I actually have outside of Funko Pops that I could showcase in regards to other things that I collect, because there are a lot of things that I collect. You know, like I could have shown comic books. I do have a few action figures. I have some plushie toys. I have some video games, books, but I was just trying to think, like, what is another collection of mine that, like, encompasses a lot of different things that actually means something to me? And believe it or not, I'm actually a big collector of Beatles merch. I am a huge fan of that band, thanks to my mother. I have every single CD that the Beatles have recorded, including a 30th anniversary special of the White Album. I also have the Cirque du Soleil Love Show soundtrack. I have all 3 anthology albums. I also have the Across the Universe soundtrack. One of my favorite movies of all time is the animated Yellow Submarine film from 1968, I believe it is. I also have the film that came out a couple years ago called Yesterday by Danny Boyle, which I highly recommend. Cammy knows that I am a massive fan of Todd McFarlane, the creator of Image Comics and Spawn, and of course he's revolutionized the toy industry as we know it. So I have to feature a couple of my Beatles figures. This is a Yellow Submarine figure set. This is based on the 1965 single season Beatles cartoon. So I had to get those. So that's pretty cool. I have Beatles coasters. Like I have Beatles puzzles. I have a Beatles tie. I have a Yellow Submarine mug. And I gotta go full circle back to Funko Pops. I got it as a gift. This was a gift from my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. This was about a year after this Barnes & Noble exclusive. They didn't even have stickers yet. This was officially off the market. This is all 4 Beatles figures as well as a Yellow Submarine picture book. She got it for me for my birthday. It only cost her $50.
Wow.
And now I probably have a whole bunch of people watching this video trying to find me so they can come to my house and steal it.
Like my auntie and my cousin are like massive Beatles fans, so like if they saw that, they would more than likely want to like break into your house and be all like, let's just take it.
Well, I am just letting everybody know that this is not for sale. That was a gift from my wife. That's how meaningful it is to me. But I still cannot get over how much this thing is worth. I really cannot. But I'm a Beatles fan. I wouldn't have bought it if I wasn't a Beatles fan. And that's another thing. It's like I love, that's actually probably one of my favorite collector's sets of Funko Pops. I love the music line. I have so many of my favorite artists, like I have Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, I have all 4 members of Kiss, I even have the MTV Moon Man, I even have Weird Al Yankovic. Like, I love my music.
Just pointing to Steven Tyler behind me. I had to make sure he was showcased in the background.
Okay.
I'm so proud of my new Run DMC Pops because they're wearing Adidas. So I was just pointing to him while you were saying that.
Awesome.
But it's funny that the fact that you were talking about the value of that pop, because it's really interesting to see what goes up in value. I was surprised to see that of the Animaniacs, Dot is worth $105 right now. I'm like, what?
I have
When did this happen? I have her too. The Animaniacs are actually very valuable. She's the top, and then that's followed by Wacko. He's worth 80, and then I think Yakko is the least. He's at like 50. But
Yeah.
I was really surprised to see Dot was worth that much.
One of the first Funko Pops that I ever gave my wife as a gift is the original Hello Kitty. That thing I think is worth over $100 now.
Oh.
And it was, and I didn't spend a ton of money. It was actually, I spotted it at a Barnes and Noble, and it was on sale. I got it for like $6. Not saying that my wife is worth $6, but
No.
I just had to get that for her because I know she loved Hello Kitty. So we have the original Hello Kitty, and that thing is worth so much money.
I always tell people it is not how much you spend, it is what it is worth to you or the person that you're buying it for. That is the value of collecting, and that is the value of a collectible to you.
Yeah.
So that will definitely be a great way to lead into the last topic of this 10-year Funko Pop celebration video, and that is discussing the Making Fun, the Story of Funko documentary, which Cammy is the only one that has it in physical form. Bravo. Thank God it's on YouTube for all the world to see, and I will be glad to post a link for that documentary in the description box when this video is posted. But I know for a solid fact that Cammy and I basically now have that on a constant basis as background noise, and she's holding her Brian Mariotti pop. But I know for a solid fact that because we're doing this collaboration, you, Jordan, and Katie watched that documentary for the very first time. And I didn't hear anything from you, Jordan, but I did hear from Katie, and I really was surprised by her reaction. But let's talk about it, guys. How amazing is that documentary?
I thought it's just amazing, from how they started, because I honestly thought they started with the Funko Pops, but they went way back, which surprised me a lot. And I'm just like, wait, what? They've been around since 1998? I'm like, I thought they just started. So that's what surprised me about Funko. I just did not know they started way back. I thought they just started like 10 years ago, but nope, they didn't. So that's what surprised me about the documentary.
Yeah, I think what's actually kind of funny is the fact that when I first started collecting Funko Pops, I was still living with my folks at the time. And I remember this one time years before that my sister actually got somewhere when she was like hanging out with some friends. She brought home an Archie bobblehead. And I loved that bobblehead. I mean, I never took it from her, but then just one day I just walked into her room and I took a look at her bobblehead and I turned it upside down to look at the base. It was a wacky wobbler. I did not, I literally had like a freak out moment, like, holy cow, we've had a Funko product in our house for years and we never even realized.
You know, the documentary, I find it really, really touching. Like I said this, I messaged Stephen after I finished watching it. I was like, I won't lie, I got a little bit choked up watching that, just like watching all these people with their like huge collections and like hearing their stories and whatever. And the fact that what surprised me is this style of Funko, like going from their traditional, like looking like the tall bobblehead, going to like the smaller, like this version right here was like borderline controversial. But like they came out with that idea, and then everybody was just like, oh, like I don't want that, like I don't want. And then like the OG collectors just being like, oh, like I mean I'm old school, like I'm not really about that. And I'm sitting there going, is she being serious right now? Like that genuinely baffled me, because very much like Jordan, I had thought that like they had only been around for like a short time. Like I didn't realize it had been that it had been so long, and I was just like, surely these are like brand new. Surely this isn't a thing that's been around for like, but like apparently they've been around for even longer than probably that I've been alive. But like the fact that like we might not have got this. Like, could you imagine if they had bowed to public pressure and not made them the way that we know now? Like, I don't know if that bears thinking about.
I will tell you something, Katie. I know for a solid fact that it at least was in 2015 where people who were Funko fanatics were demanding for Avatar Last Airbender pops. It took them a very long time to make, but that's one of the main reasons why I admire Funko as a company so much, and the documentary really shows it, because they're not a toy-making company. They're a license-owning company.
Yeah.
They spend their time trying to track down all of these major licenses in popular culture for the sake of turning their product into what these licenses represent. Because they know that when they first started out, when Mike Becker had founded the company and was making these wacky wobblers, the ones that sold the most when this product first hit the market were the ad icons. Everything from
the big boy.
Everything from the big boy to Tony the Tiger to the wacky wobbler that Cammy and I actually had a conversation about once, the Alka-Seltzer boy. And the fact that people actually bought them because it reminded them of simpler times is what made them so successful. And the fact that Brian Mariotti wanted to get in on the company because he loved the fact that they made Wacky Racer bobbleheads, this 1972-73 cartoon that only lasted 1 year on Hanna-Barbera but made such an impact on kids everywhere that he just wanted more, and he ended up being the person to take the company to new heights because Mike Becker loved his company, and the fact that he sold it to Brian. He said it at the end of the documentary, if I never sold my company to Brian, we would never be where we are today. And the funny thing was, we talked about this earlier, the fact that when Cammy talked about collecting and they said, you're a girl, why would you collect this stuff? One of the few reasons why Brian Mariotti is grateful that the Funko Pops took off, because it was the reason why there are females buying their products, young children buying their products, because they literally took the science of cute, as Wilkie said in the documentary, and just turned it into this massively marketable thing. And I just loved how we got to see some of these fanatics and how they're all so different from each other, but they share a love for collecting. I think one of my favorite stories is Rev from Cammy's hometown of El Paso, and how he doesn't collect all of these major franchises. He just loves the Freddy Funko stuff and the original Funko art, like Spastic Plastic. He loves that stuff. And then you have someone like that woman who goes by the name of Show Me Notter, who has over 6,000 pieces. Like, that puts Cammy's collection to shame. But there are just, and my personal favorites are Becky Saurus's story. And I adore Peter DeYoung, the man who is the doctor in the prenatal intensive care for young babies. Like, his story just melts my heart every single time I watched it. How Funkos remind him of times of joy, times of peace. Funkos gave him and his wife the urge to make a larger family and adopt 3 little boys outside of their 3 teenage biological daughters. And the fact that he works in such a emotional roller coaster every single day, that he can come home to this room that has all of these great ways to feel calm, feel at peace, escape. That's a beautiful thing to know.
As a female collector, I was the girl on the playground in the 2nd grade that was in the dirt playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the boys. So I'm going to cancel your cue and say that just because you're a girl doesn't mean everything has to sparkle and shine and be rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. Because one of the things that I do pride my collection in is the fact that it is so well-rounded. I have boy toys and girl toys, and I think that as a society, especially today's age, we really need to cancel out that idea that certain toys are made for boys and certain toys are made for girls. I think whatever brings you joy, whatever brings you happiness is what you should collect. And if that is, as a boy you like to play with Barbies, as a girl you like to play with Hot Wheels, then so be it. I absolutely adored my parents, especially, of course, extra props goes to my mom, because my mom was the one that really was there all the time. My dad was hardworking, so I love him for that too. But she really didn't stifle any joy that I had. If I told her I wanted a chemistry set, she made that happen. If I wanted to build Legos, that was okay too. And it wasn't the pink girl label Legos, because those weren't a thing yet. So I think as a collector, you know, don't get me wrong, I love my Barbie dolls, but I also love my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And collectively, all of those things are a piece of me, they're a piece of my childhood, and now they're a piece of my adulthood. And what makes that documentary so special, and, you know, as you pointed out, tearful, because, you know, you do get tearful as a collector seeing other collectors. It brings you joyful tears, because you know you're not alone in this world. You know that there is crazy fanatics, not just for the Funko itself, but for all of these things that we love and that we want to preserve and that we want to show off. That makes us who we are. It validates us as adult collectors, because I know that at some point in time we've all been made fun of. We've all been told, why do you collect this crap? You know, there's better things you could spend your money on. Can you imagine where you would be if you didn't buy all this stuff? I've heard it all, and can it? I don't care. This brings me joy. And, you know, yes, does it cost money? Absolutely. Am I very much cognizant that I am, you know, privileged and blessed to be able to afford to buy all of this stuff? Yes. But I also know that I work very hard for my money, and there's nothing greater that brings me joy than spending my money on something that will bring me eternal happiness. I mean, there's never a time, you know, you said it perfectly, Steve, where I literally will just stand in this room and I will just stop in awe and look at all of these colors and all of these fandoms. And I'm so happy, you know, it just takes me back to a time when I saw a movie or I read a book, or you know, there's so many memories encapsulated in this. So that documentary is so special to not only give us the history of how it started with Mike and Rob, but how it transcended into what Brian has created, this empire of just bringing pop culture into every household. And I love that Brian has a quest to not only have a Funko Pop in every house, but to make sure that everybody has a Huckleberry Hound.
Or at least knows who he is.
Well, I was just wanting to piggyback off of what Cammy was saying there, you know, just people being all like, why are you collecting that? Like, blah, blah, blah. First of all, I am a grown woman. I have a job. I earn my own money. Thank you very much, Karen. So get off of my lawn and put down the Funko because it was expensive. Now just get out of my house. Like,
You see,
do you want me to be boring? Like, do you want me to like just sit here and be drab and boring and lifeless? No, get out, leave, go.
I agree with everybody. And to be honest, like I thought I got into Marvel movies like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, that I got into that like since I was like, when it first came out, I watched it with my dad, and he told me I watched the animated TV show from the 1990s with him since I was a baby, and I was like, wait, what? So I would thank my dad for getting me into Marvel, because I wouldn't have liked this guy if he didn't. So it's like, yes, I'm a girl, but I think girls are allowed to like voice up like Cammy said. So it's like, it shouldn't matter to what other people think. It's like what we think makes us happy,
No,
you know?
exactly.
So You want to know what the truth of the matter is? It's like when you take a look at some of these franchises that, like, you know, when they were originally, they thought that they were just for boys and whatnot. You know, like it was always the guys that were classified as the geeks or the nerds. But if something like Star Wars really was supposed to be for one gender, why is there such a strong female character in Princess Leia? Why? Like, why is there, she's not one of, I mean, okay, granted, the guys got their fantasy in Return of the Jedi. I will not deny the fact that that is an actual thing, but this is the woman that basically looks at a 7 to 8 foot tall Wookiee and says, will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way? Like, come on.
Exactly. Like, she was leading the rebellion way before Luke and Han even showed up. She was out here doing it, and she's just like, oh,
I don't care if it's a female or a male actor, but anyone who is able to go toe-to-toe with Harrison Ford is A-okay in my book. That's why I love Ender's Game so much. When Asa Butterfield's version of Ender goes up against Harrison Ford, that is like one of the most powerful moments in movie history for me. But the other thing is, yes, I agree, Cammy. Brian Mariotti wants the entire world to know who Huckleberry Hound is. And that's another reason as to why up on this shelf over all the way to my right, I'm not going to show it because I might lose my sound, but I have some vintage cartoon characters. And I feel that it is important to let younger generations know about some of the old cartoons that came before, because as great as shows like Steven Universe are, people need to know about the classic Disney characters. They need to know about the classic Looney Tunes. They need to know about Rocky and Bullwinkle, Popeye, Felix the Cat, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, and we can even go into the 1980s and 90s. They need to know about the Animaniacs. They need to know about Ren and Stimpy. They need to know about Rugrats and Rocko's Modern Life and Tiny Toon Adventures, and going all the way even into 2000, like, you know, Adult Swim characters and even characters like Invader Zim and the Wild Thornberries, because these characters are getting older now. And I want people to know about these amazing cartoon characters. I mean, I discovered Rocky and Bullwinkle when I was 9 years old. That show was long gone off the air when I was a kid. But watching that show and just seeing how silly it is. I mean, like, Tom and Jerry the movie is hitting theaters and HBO Max next week. Put your kids in front of the television with some of those old Tom and Jerry cartoons after they watch that movie.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like the new Space Jam is coming out in a couple of months. Put the kids in front of the TV and let them watch the Looney Tunes. And not just that, let them see old episodes of Sesame Street. Let them see old episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Let them see all of these amazing things that we grew up with, because those were some amazing, amazing shows. Like, I cannot wait, you know, God willing, a son or a daughter, I don't care, whatever I have, but I am going to be so happy for the day where I sit my child next to me and say, we're going to watch Batman the Animated Series together. I am so excited for that day to come. And that's another thing I love so much about the documentary, because it's not just the fanatics, it's the people that work at Funko. Like, I love the story of the president of the company, not Brian Mariotti, the CEO, but the president, who's a massive skateboarding fan, and how he literally was dying with delight that they were making a Funko Pop of Tony Hawk. The fact that he got to meet Tony Hawk is such an amazing thing. I just love the fact that all of these people that work for this company just love the fact that they work for them, because they are literally sharing things that they grew up with, and they're also embracing things that are new to them. That's why this company is just so damn special. And that's why I say to people, it's not just that they're capturing licenses. They have the smartest marketing on the planet, because, like I said earlier, I'm still waiting for that Seinfeld line. I've been collecting Funko Pops for 8 years. They still have me. I'm still a loyal fan. I may not be collecting so many Funko Pops, but, like, I'm still loyal to this company, and the minute that the Funko Pops that I'm waiting for come out, you better believe that I'm going to buy it, regardless of how long it took, because I had patience. you know?
And it's funny that you mentioned that Tony Hawk segment in the documentary, because I love how Tony points out just the shift in him as a brand, not only just being Tony Hawk the person, but then being the skateboarder and then becoming a brand when the video game came out, and how now our generation are having kids and those kids go and meet him and they're like, oh, you're a real person and this toy was named after you. I thought you were named after the toy, you know? And it really just goes to show you the importance of sharing that with generations, because it's so true. It reminds me of a tweet that happened many moons ago that someone had put out when Kanye West did a duet with Paul McCartney. Oh, this Paul McCartney is really lucky that he got to do this with, you know, Kanye. He's going to be big. And it's like, really? Really? You don't know who Paul McCartney is? Like, come on, people, you're killing me. But it's so important to do this. And that's why I'm so grateful for my nephew. My nephew, like I said, is a carbon copy of me. And again, my mom is in his mind and she's sharing all of the joy that she did with me with him now. And so we can talk about these things, and he'll talk to me about 70s classic rock, and he'll talk to me about 80s cartoons, and it's like, oh my God, I love you so much.
No, yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because that reminds me of 2001 when a big single hit the radio. It was a recently uncovered Elvis Presley song, and it ended up being like in a car commercial. It was the song A Little Less Conversation. It was like remixed by the DJ JXL, or maybe possibly even Junkie XL. I'm not exactly sure who it was, but I believe it's JXL or JLX. And I still remember when that song was hitting it big, and I was listening to it on the radio, and I remember the DJ joking, saying, somewhere in this world there are 5 12-year-old girls in a basement listening to this song, and they're all saying, man, this Elvis Presley's going to be big one day. Boy, whoa.
Don't even know.
Exactly. But that's, again, that's why I'm so grateful that there's a company like Funko out there. And quite frankly, they really are the only company that's doing stuff like this. The fact that they're actually bringing all of these things out there for so many people to be exposed to and enjoy. You know, that's what I love so much about them. And I think the part that really makes me so happy is the fact that the reason why Cammy and I have these Funko t-shirts on is because at the end of the day, Mike Becker did come back to Funko to work on their apparel lines and Loungefly team-ups and whatnot. So I'm just glad he's back, because I always thought that Brian Mariotti was the person who founded the company. I didn't know anything about Mike Becker. And I love the fact that he is, as Brian Mariotti said, we brought the band back together. And I love that Mike is now back with Funko and just still having a good time, but in a completely different capacity, so he doesn't burn himself out like he did the first time around. But Funko's going to stick around for a very long time. I mean, 10 years of Funko Pops, I am personally not going to be surprised if we see another 10 years.
I forgot to mention, I actually have, well, 2. I have actually a Loungefly backpack. Well, actually 2 Loungefly backpacks. It was only whenever you said that I was like, shit, I knocked them out. But they're in a cupboard. They're over there. But it's a Jack Skellington one with like his big eyes and his tuxedo one. It's really cute.
Another thing with Funko, though, that I think will make them, well, not only has made them successful, but will continue their success, is they've also not only made collecting affordable, but they've brought it to a point where, as you know, a collector for decades, as I've talked about, I was the type of kid that kept a lot of things mint in package, new in box, never removed from box. And this is a toy that's not only affordable, but it's almost encouraged that you take it out of the box, you touch it, you play with it, you display it, and then you can easily put it back in the box and put it up on your shelf, and it's mint in box, new in box, you know? So it is a different way of collecting, and this speaks to generations of collectors, and I think that is a big reason why Funko is so popular, because they're taking the cool stuff of yesterday, the cool stuff of today, they're making it both, but they're making it accessible and affordable and fun, and you can't beat that. And having Mike Becker back on the team is amazing, and the fact that they both complement each other, but they both respect each other for what they bring to the company is so important to make that dynamic work.
Yeah, I agree with you about the boxes, and I'm a firm person who, like, yes, I do collect in box, I do, but yes, I'll take them out of the boxes because I can put them right back into the boxes. Because I will say to people, the boxes are essential, and the reason why is because I am just someone who experienced a move. So the fact that they were all still in their boxes, they were the easiest things to pack into bigger boxes and bring to the new house. So I would definitely say, even if you collect out of box, it's really a good idea to hold on to your boxes because they really are just easier for you. I mean, I joked around with my wife a long time ago when we first moved into our house. I said, I might just find like a bare wall and just stack all the pops on top of each other and just make a wall of pops. But that's not happening. It's a different idea. But one way or another, I just love this company. I just think that what they've done to toy collecting in general, the fact that they're really telling you to embrace your inner child, embrace your nostalgia heartstrings, and their tagline says it all. Everyone's a fan of something. And I think that this is the best place to come and wrap this whole show up. So I just want to say to everybody, before we go around the room and give everybody a chance to let everyone know where they can be found, and of course, their information will be in the description box. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and please comment. We'd love to chat with you. And if you want to see all the craziness that happens on this channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you are always up to date with our latest content. And basically, if Cammy is not in a video, trust me, she's okay unless she says otherwise. But anyway, besides finding you here on my channel, Cammy, where else can you be found?
Well, I do have a YouTube channel. It's called Cammy's Corner, and initially it was founded on just that premise, you know, all of the pop culture and the nostalgia and all the things that make me who I am and what I've become. I have not posted anything on there in a little over a year. I do anticipate coming back this year. I just kind of needed to revitalize myself and, again, kind of be true to who I was. I think that I made it a niche project because it was encouraged in order to have growth. I needed to only talk about one thing. But that's not why I started it. So when I threw that garbage out the window, I was like, okay, I'm going to come back on my terms. So I will be back. But again, my channel is Cammy's Corner. And if you can't find me there, you can certainly find me on Steve's channel.
Yeah, Cammy shows up in Funko Pop discussions. She's here for the old, the new, and the awesome as one of my co-hosts, along with Stacy over at Stacy's Stories. She joins me, of course, for the DC animated film live show. And I'm also proud to say that she has officially joined the That's Comical team. She will be on an episode or two or more. Chances are the answer is more. But she will be on my channel a great deal. So now, of course, I want to ask Katie to tell us where she can be found, and then of course we'll close it out with Jordan.
I have a YouTube channel. It's the Introverted Reader. I mostly talk about books. I've shown off my Funko collection sometimes. I've done some movie reviews a couple times. I just film whatever I want. The last video I filmed was a tag video, which was a lot of fun. And I'm also on Instagram at Locket Blinger, and I'm on Twitter as well at Introverted REA1 because Twitter wouldn't let me put reader and made me put a number. So
Twitter doesn't let a lot of people do a lot of things, and they won't for a while, I think. Yeah, they just the day that they actually give us that edit button for our tweets, believe me, the internet is going to crash.
Oh, it really will.
Jordan, take us home.
So I'm found at The Lost Reader on YouTube. You can also find me on Facebook under The Lost Reader, and Twitter and Instagram you can find me as Lost Reader 19 because they wouldn't allow me to say have me as The Lost Reader. So I just put Lost Reader and then 19 because that's the day my birthday's on and my birthday. So you can find me on those as well as my channel, The Lost Reader. And I talk about books, and I also sometimes talk about Disney because I love Disney. I still like to, so I just talk about basically whatever I want just because I'm passionate about not just books on my channel. So
I request a Tsum Tsum collection tour from you.
Yeah, I honestly would like to. I'm just nervous just because like there's some Sometimes I want to get, but I know they're rare to find. So I'm like, maybe I'll just show my collection. Same as my Funko Pop collection. I probably want to do that video at some point.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you all for joining me on this amazing celebratory adventure into the world of Funko Pops. This was absolutely wonderful. And thank you all for watching. And I will see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the video you just watched, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to be up to date with our latest videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.